Good afternoon, traders and investors. It's Will back here with another one. Hope you guys are doing well on this Tuesday. We had a big day today. Google, Microsoft, and Visa earnings just came out. So we're going to go over those quickly. And tomorrow, big day as well. We have the Fed interest rate decision. Most likely going to be an increase in the interest rates by 25 basis points. And we also have Coca-Cola and Meta earnings tomorrow. So another big day, another good indication of where the consumer stands. So we got a lot to cover today, guys. And at the end, we will do a recap of my trades and positions. So make sure to stick around for those. So without further ado, let's get into it right away. We can see that the SPY here is up just about 1/3% today, right? 0.27. And we did have a nice push in the after hours, mostly due to Google on QQQ up here, almost 0.7% on the day. And you can see a bit more after the close, right? So let's get into these earnings, guys, first, right? So first want to talk about of what we have coming up tomorrow. So obviously you can see we have Coca-Cola before the open, going to give us a good indication of how consumers stand on spending. And also we have Meta after the close. That's going to be really, really big for advertising, right? It's going to have a cascading effect, most likely on the rest of tech. And obviously later on in the week, we do have McDonald's and MasterCard, which I'll be paying close attention to, as well as Enphase and Intel, also two of the plays that I've been heavily eyeing. Now, let's get into some earnings, right? So Microsoft, what happened with Microsoft here? You can see that in the after hours here on Microsoft, we actually ended pretty much almost flat, right? Down 0.5%, not too much. Why? Well, that's because Microsoft didn't really do too much. They did beat on EPS, slightly. They also beat on revenue ever so slightly as well. But the big number here was focusing on their Azure cloud management, right? So they grew revenue by 26%. Analysts were saying that anything under 26% would be a fairly negative number, but they were able to maintain that at 26%. You can see analysts polled had an expected 25% growth from Azure, right? But the problem with that is that they've been growing at this same rate for quite some time now. I believe now 3 or 4 quarters in a row, right? So it's kind of as if they're growing 25% consistently, but the growth is not accelerating. Now, it's not decelerating either, which is not bad. It's just not accelerating the way that they would like to see. Obviously, prior to today, last week, we did have a nice bit of news from Microsoft that they were going to start charging a more premium service to include their AI services in their Microsoft 365 suite. So that's anything from Word, Excel, and the likes, right? So as of now, Microsoft, not a very bad quarter at all, right? Just not a very outstanding one either for some outperformance. So very, very, very standard things from Microsoft, right? Revenue rose 8% quarter over quarter, which is perfectly fine. Cloud segment as well, up 15%, right? So everything is perfectly in line, which is why you're not seeing some big gains on Microsoft. Jumping into Google now, however, contrary to that, we do have a very big, nice outperformance from Google, right? You can see in the after hours, they are up considerably, about 6% in the after hours, taking us above our more recent highs here. So very healthy on Google right here, right? So if you pull into the Google revenues here, you can see they beat on EPS, beat on revenue as well by a decent amount. But here's the kickers, right? YouTube ads considerably up, right? Google Cloud ads considerably up as well. And their traffic acquisition costs did rise a tiny bit here, but not as much as most people were expecting. So all in all, most of the lines of Google's business have been increasing healthily, which is why they did get a nice price bump here, right? So revenue rose 7% quarter over quarter, right? So that's pretty much in line with Microsoft, 7-8% type of thing, right? And you can see here that their earnings growth is now back to growing after having so much of a boom after COVID with all the move to work from home and online, right? Now they can finally get into a position where in a comparative fashion, they're starting to bring it back up again. So very, very, very good in terms of that, right? So revenue from the cloud unit, right, was up 28%, which is a very, very decent number. The ad revenue as a total, right, up 3.3%. So very, very good report from Google, as a matter of fact. Nothing to take away from Google at all. And that's why they were getting a very, very nice price increase. So we'll go over those charts in a bit. And the last one that I didn't want to cover right off the bat is Visa. Visa actually pulling back about 1% in the after hours here, despite having a fairly decent report, to be honest with you guys. I didn't really see anything bad in the report per se. But if we take a closer look into it here, right, you can see that the revenue rose, right? So we were up 8.12 billion from 7.28 billion. Very, very good. But the key factor here, consumer spending remained resilient. And that's a key thing that I want to point out to you guys, okay? So this is a double-edged sword. The fact that the consumer spending remains resilient throughout these recessionary times is a good thing. It means that the economy isn't most likely to slow down that much, if at all. So if we do get a recession, it would be a fairly shallow one. However, the drawback of this, the other edge of the sword, is the fact that if consumer spending remains high and inflation is still elevated, well, we may not be able to claw back at inflation. We may not be able to bring inflation down as quickly as anticipated, which brings us into the next segment here of the Fed, right? The Fed has a job to do, and their job is mainly to bring inflation down, which is why we're more likely to see an increase of interest rate tomorrow and in the next meeting as well. But we're almost there, almost at terminal rates, but they're doing a good job, right? So Visa, company's cross-border volume was up 22%, massive number, right? So it's very, very good here. Very, very good. Visa and American Express have said the same thing, essentially, that the consumer is not slowing down. Now, let's take a quick look before we get into the charts into our, so also what I wanted to see here, the credit card balance is outstanding, right? Almost at $1 trillion. So keep an eye on this. A few people have pointed this out in the past, but I mean, the trend is growing, right? As more people gain access to credit and whatnot, it's normal that you'll see an increase in credit balances. At least it's not skyrocketing on an exponential basis. If you look prior, right, this chart pretty much is in line, okay? So that's the only thing I wanted to point out. Now, jumping into the Fed tomorrow, the expectation here, you can see from the CME Group website here, 99.6% probability that we will get a 0.25% increase in the interest rate. So the current rate right now, you can see the current target is 5 to 5.25%, and almost 100% certainty that tomorrow Powell's going to come out and put in a 0.25 interest rate increase. Now, I don't think that that's too much of a problem at all, and I'll explain why, okay? The one thing that the terminal rates are almost here. So 0.25, an extra 2 additional times, is not going to break the market. The one key thing that you have to focus on tomorrow is Jerome Powell's language. You want to hear him have bullish language. You want to hear him be pleased about the work that they've done in inflation so far. I don't mind if he says they still have work to do. That's going to be expected. But you want him to be pleased about the work that he's done so far. And secondly, you want him to state that inflation, in their opinion, is now under control with the lower reads that we've been getting. If we get those two things, the market shouldn't have a bearish reaction from them. But if Jerome Powell gets up there and says, I'm not confident that that inflation is going to stay down, and and he gives kind of a bearish, a kind of nervous tone surrounding that whole ordeal and doesn't exude confidence when he's speaking about it, then the markets may have an adverse reaction. But we will not get, in my opinion, an adverse reaction due to the increase in interest rates alone. So very, very, very important takeaway from that, guys, okay? So with all that being said, let's get into the charts and see how we're setting up for tomorrow. So SPY, obviously, very, very nice area of consolidation. Still, we have not lost, guys. We're still not having lost the daily uptrend, right? Decent consolidation here, kind of just range bound here as we try and set the higher lows, right? Obviously, if we double top here and dip below, we're going to be looking out for these levels down here, right? 438, line in the sand level. Keep an eye on that. On the futures chart, it actually looks a lot cleaner, right? We've broken through these highs today, but unfortunately on the actual SPY chart, it's looking like a double top. So this is why I say on the futures chart, we're still pretty much looking for anything above 438, okay? 438 is going to be the level to watch, guys. If we start pulling back too much into this area, we open the door for a daily downtrend, so just keep an eye on that. Resistance stays posted between 455 to 460. I'm not ready to call this a daily high or low yet, since we haven't cracked the tops. As long as we don't crack the tops here on actual SPY, I can't say this is the level to watch out to. For me, it still remains a line in the sand down here. QQQ technology, right? Decent day. Oh, before we do that, heat map, okay? Just want you guys to see fairly mixed day again. Most of tech outperforming here. Healthcare muted. Financials, not that great of a day at all, but it's normal. Financials have run a lot, so it's normal for them to pull down a bit. Healthcare also has put in a few good days, especially last week, so normal for them to pull back a bit. And you can see today, only basically basic materials and technology carrying a majority of the market here. Had some small gains here, some larger losses down here in real estate and financials, but for the most part, fairly balanced day. You like to see it. Sector rotation, key. Now, QQQ, okay? QQQ, very, very important at this point. The line in the sand is still 364. However, with Google tomorrow, we may get an upswing, right? But if for some reason the Fed comes out, and let's say Meta also after hours brings us down, you have to watch out for the lower high and the potential daily downtrend. That is what I'm looking out for tomorrow, guys. It's going to be very important. If we get a little upswing like this and then set the daily downtrend, that will be very notable to me, guys. The daily downtrend has not been set on QQQ pretty much in like the last 3 months, right? Pretty much all the way back here since April. So keep an eye on this. That's the last thing you want to see. The bulls still have a chance of saving this in setting the higher low here and pushing back up to the highs, okay? But as of now, guys, really have to keep an eye on how this plays out. It's going to be crucial. This is one of the reasons that I'm not playing tech that much this week. Most of my options are concentrated on value plays because I want to see, especially with Meta reporting tomorrow and the FOMC, I need to see how QQQ plays out, okay? There's a lot of names that we'll go over that are setting up for potential downtrends on the daily like this, and you have to keep an eye on these charts. They're going to be crucial, okay? Even if XLF and XLV can manage to hold up SPY, QQQ is kind of on its own little journey here. Really have to watch out if they lose this daily uptrend. If we get a daily downtrend, guys, zoom out to the weekly. It's okay. There's still tons of space for a weekly pullback if it happens. Now, XLF still toying with our resistance area up here. $36 to $37 is the area to watch. Obviously today, the bit of a consolidation day, guys, still anything above 34.20 is just going to be a higher low. So if we continue pulling back, guys, there's so much space. Keep an eye out on your EMA 12 right here, which is currently just below $35. So if we do get a pullback area, that is where I'm going to be looking. If we pull back hard, I'm definitely going to be looking for some options in the lower $34 area. XLV, beautiful day on healthcare as well, right? Dip was bought in the morning by the bulls. You zoom into the hourly right here, you can see that we kind of gapped down open and then we kind of bought the dip and faded the rest of the day. But in all, healthy day for me, guys. We're still looking for a higher low, right? Anything above 129.60 is just going to be your daily higher low. We've obviously broken out of this tightening range pattern. So in my opinion, this is literally going to be your weekly uptrend continuation, right? So any pullback at this point on the weekly is just going to be for continuation on the weekly uptrend. If we do keep pulling back here, I will heavily be targeting the 132 zone for writing options. I think it's going to be very tough for the bears to pull all the way back into here without some heavy buying from the bulls, right? The bulls do not want to lose this whole area that's acting kind of as a support zone, right? So that's why I say if we pull back here towards the 12 EMA, this yellow line right here in the 133s, I'm going to be looking for the 132 pocket to be writing some options, and I will definitely be riding those if I do get a sign all the way back up to here into the 140 zone. So very healthy move on healthcare as a whole. IWM Russell, great job by the Russell of just holding gains pretty much. We're kind of range bound. Remains to be seen, guys, with the earnings that are still coming out tomorrow, how the Russell is going to play in to this tech move. 190 is going to be your higher low we're watching out for. Still looking for it, right? We're toying with this resistance area. 195 all the way to $200 psychological. This is this level up here, right? So still looking for the higher low, guys. Still looking for it. The further we pull back, the more likely we end up opening the door for the bears to set a daily downtrend. If we ever get a daily downtrend confirmed, once again, zoom out to the weekly, tons of space, 180 for the higher low. Zoom out something like down here in the 188 level. If we pull back into this 188 level, I will gladly be writing 185s all day. So great job by the bulls playing some defense in this higher area. At this point, they still control it, still just looking for a higher low for potential continuation of the upside. But if ever we pull back too much and set up the daily downtrend, guys, just zoom out. We're perfectly fine looking for the weekly higher low. Dow Jones names. Dow Jones, strong, still strong. This move has still not topped out. When this move tops out, okay, looking for the daily higher low. Look for confluence. We have the 12 EMA at 35,000. We also have this horizontal support level, which is our pretty much on the weekly inverse head and shoulders. I'll keep bringing it up. This is just pattern continuation right here, right? Running into this resistance area right here, 35,500-ish. So it wouldn't be surprising to me if this move does top out soon. Dow Jones is slightly overbought down here, as you can see on the RSI on the daily. This is not tech, guys. This is the Dow Jones. When we get overbought in the past, look, when we get overbought, it doesn't stay overbought for as long as QQQ does or some individual tech names do, okay? Usually we do get a pullback. So when that pullback does happen, don't get worried whatsoever. We have tons and tons of space, right? Anywhere pretty much below 35,700-ish is going to be the target little pocket that I'm looking for a nice little breakout retest of this zone. And then we're pretty much going to be challenging. If that does happen, we will be challenging our all-time high area. Great job by the bulls. Bitcoin doing absolutely a whole bunch of nothing as well. We did get a breakout retest to the downside from the bears, however, right? So breakout, this is a bear flag setup, okay? Testing our previous support to the upside as resistance may be due for a break lower. If we break lower, guys, the next target for me is going to be 28,500, which is pretty much all the way down here, right? So if we do have that happen, it'll be very unfortunate. But once again, on the weekly, still looking for the weekly higher low. Tons of space for the bulls to allow a bit further movement. I just don't want to see it fall below 28,000, okay? So bulls still fairly healthy, but they're going to have to start putting in some changes, guys. If we get hit with some bad technology news or potentially the rate decision doesn't go that well tomorrow, you could see Bitcoin pull back a bit further. But as of now, the bears are in full control. They have the daily downtrend. So eventually the bulls have a lot of work to do to reset that trend to the upside. So keep that in mind. Apple earnings next week, of course. You guys know my sweet spot, 175 to 170. I highly doubt that Apple's going to have like a 10% down move on earnings. But once again, if for some reason tomorrow's earnings from Meta, let's say, are not well received and it acts as a cascade effect like Tesla and Netflix did last week, well, we may just get some consolidation to the downside. FOMC bearish reaction as well could potentially do it, right? So Apple, what are we looking for here? Apple is pretty much looking to hold this 12 EMA. At this point, guys, Apple is also set up to potentially cause a daily downtrend, right? It's now been a few days. The bulls have had their turn. They haven't been able to do anything, potentially setting up for the daily downtrend. What we were looking for? We were looking for the bulls to put in a higher low and push, but we haven't been able to make that push happen. So if something like this happens, it is a confirmed daily downtrend. Apple hasn't had a confirmed daily downtrend, guys, in a while, right? You'd have to look all the way down here, which is pretty much back in March for a daily downtrend on Apple, right? So if we do potentially, with some adverse news, get a daily downtrend and a loss of our 12 EMA, zoom out, tons of space, guys, on the weekly. My first target going to be 185, this 12 EMA right here. But pretty much, guys, anything above 171 is going to be like your weekly higher low, right? So tons of space. If we do pull back into the 180s over the next week, especially with their earnings, well, you guys know my little buy zone is down here, right? So that's what I'll be waiting for personally on Apple. AMD, nice little recovery day today. I was able to close out my options position as well. So what are we looking for here? We are looking for a trend reversal. If we can't get it done, guys, if we do set up the daily downtrend, well, you guys know my little pocket, 104 all the way down to 100. That's where I'm going to be looking to add some AMD positions here. But so far, the bulls are doing a good job of setting their little daily bounce underway. The higher that we can get into this move, the more likely they set up for a daily trend change. If we top out tomorrow or the day after and start pulling back and crack these lows, it'll be daily downtrend confirmed. Unfortunately, we will be looking lower. That wouldn't be very good because if we crack these lows here, it would also be a weekly downtrend for further pullback, right? So keep an eye on this area if we do pull back further. It's really all up to the bulls at this point. They have to put in as much move as they can in this area to set up for a daily trend change. But as of now, guys, I'm only writing options in this little pocket here. I'm waiting for the market to come to me. Amazon, loss of the 12 EMA, not able to recover. Earnings next week, obviously. At this point, guys, Amazon has put in so much of a down move that they're setting up for the daily downtrend, right? So what were we looking for? Daily uptrend continuation failed, okay? So at this point, the bears have it. As long as we can put in a decent enough move to the upside on an upswing, can set up for a daily trend change or at worst, a tightening range. Two potential bullish scenarios. However, if we pull up tomorrow something like this, and then proceed over next week with their earnings right here. Don't forget to create a daily downtrend. Once again, same thing. Zoom out, tons of space for your weekly pullback. Anything above 103 is going to be a weekly higher low. Still haven't pulled back on the weekly, except for the last 2 weeks, right? But still haven't had much weekly consolidation in the grand scheme of things. In terms of the size of this move, haven't had much weekly pullback. Optimal Amazon targets for me is pretty much anything below 120. If I can get 120 to 115, I'll be very content in writing options on Amazon. But just keep an eye, guys. Keep an eye on the size of the bounces. If the bounces are soft and we start moving to the lows and crush our most recent lows here, guys, we're setting up daily downtrends on a lot of names, right? Apple, Amazon, you saw it, AMD as well. Tesla's set up for that. So keep an eye on these charts, guys. They're all going to look the same. And that's what we're really looking out for, is the daily downtrend potential. Now, Google, obviously, you don't see it, but we're all the way up here in the after hours, 130, right? So 130 puts us pretty much all the way up here, okay, guys? Past our area of resistance. So it remains to be seen how much of this move Google can keep. But at this point, daily uptrend is now recaptured by the bulls. There's going to be a big, big, big gap here. So if we do get some negative news on tech and from the FOMC, could get a pullback into this gap area, but we do have this entire zone here now, which will be heavy support. So big support at the 126. If we pull back from 130, pretty much from here, if we pull back from 130, it's going to be basically breakout with the earnings today, right? And then retest of this 126 for a potential move higher. So it remains to be seen how Google's going to do that, but that's the most likely scenario in my opinion. Bulls now back in full control on Google. This is going to look real nice on the weekly as well. Finally, with the weekly continuation of the upside, resetting the weekly uptrend to the bulls. Great job by Google. What are we into next? Meta. Meta at this point, guys, same thing, okay? It's getting dangerous, guys. Right? So loss of the 12 EMA, look, we don't lose it many times, but when we do, it has to be noticeable. The bears have put in a decent move. If we can't bounce high enough, okay, if we can't bounce high enough, we set up the doors for the daily downtrend. So that is not what you want to see on a lot of these names. Next few days and over the next week, this is crucial. This is pretty much make or break, because if we set up the daily downtrend, guys, we're zooming out to the weeklies, and most of these charts will start their weekly consolidation for potentially a few weeks, which is going to be good. I'm definitely going to be buying if we get lower. This is kind of a bit low for you guys, I know, but personally, if I see premium, decent premium, anything under 250 on Meta, I will be going for it. So keep an eye on this, guys. We're setting up for a potential daily downtrend. Obviously, if Meta has great earnings tomorrow, we can just engulf. The same thing that happened back here, right? We started the down move, engulfed off of earnings, right? Even here was already an uptrend, but look, Meta can gap up in a significant fashion. But if we get some on-par earnings or not overwhelming earnings, very good shot that we could set up for a daily downtrend on Meta. Keep an eye on tomorrow's earnings. It will tell a lot. If we just gap right through here, it'll be daily downtrend confirmed. At that point, we'll be set up really well to go shopping. Anything below 250 for my premiums. Microsoft showed you guys in the earnings, right? They're actually down now from the call, 3.82%. So we're all the way down here at this point on Microsoft. So Microsoft, daily downtrend, if we open like this tomorrow, daily downtrend is confirmed on Microsoft, guys. Daily downtrend confirmed. So notable to you, right? I showed you all these other tech names. They're all set up the same for daily downtrends, but all of this is just to say it's just for weekly consolidation. There's so much space, guys, right? This is obviously a very important support level, but if you zoom out, right, the entire leg, right, weekly consolidation is very warranted. Like on the monthly, guys, this would really look like nothing if we pull back to here, right? So I just want you guys to focus. The bulls control the larger time frames, but on the short term, we may be due for some downside in the form of daily downtrends. My sweet spot is 308 all the way down to 285 on Microsoft, this pocket here. So if we continue to trend slightly to the downside and come all the way down here, I will be looking, guys, in the 310 and below area for premium shopping. So Microsoft, our first name, if they open like this tomorrow morning, guys, our first name with a confirmed daily downtrend, don't panic. Just know what to look out for. We're just looking for weekly consolidation. It is healthy, okay? So don't panic. NVIDIA. NVIDIA, great job by the bulls today of playing some defense. You can see they're even up another 0.74 in the after hours here. So guys, line in the sand level, 440 at this point, okay? So we're setting the daily higher low, but, all right, this is for a daily uptrend continuation. However, like on all our other tech names, the bears have come down a lot. If we just slightly bounce like this and set up the daily downtrend, it has to be notable to you, there hasn't been a daily downtrend on NVIDIA in quite some time, right? So if we set up like this and go lower, well, we have to zoom out to the weekly once again. At that point, guys, you're looking at 400. Key level. This is your weekly higher low, coincides as well with the 12 EMA on the weekly. That may just be where NVIDIA has to consolidate to if it does get an extended move down on the daily. So guys, next 2 days are crucial on these names. We're either going to get confirmed daily uptrend continuation or confirmed daily downtrend, zoom out to the weekly and start eyeing these targets down here, okay? So very important on NVIDIA as well. Yeah, obviously, if we get a daily downtrend, it's going to mark a temporary top. And obviously the monthly, like if we get a slight bit of pullback here into the 400s, guys, does that really look bad at all? No, the bulls control all the higher time frames. It's just sometimes you just have to be patient. Tesla, same exact thing. Same exact probability, right? So if this is the end of our daily bounce here off of these pretty much earnings lows, and we end up setting up something like this in the next few days, guys, daily downtrend confirmed. Once again, zoom out to the weekly, keep an eye, 240 is your line in the sand, weekly higher low. Obviously, if we lose this, we have the potential to set up a weekly downtrend, which would go into monthly consolidation. But just to show you guys, monthly uptrend, right? If we consolidate this towards the end of the month here and into August potentially, it's fine. The longer time frames are fine. Even if we lose the weekly, I just want you guys to see the longer time frames on all these charts are perfectly fine. The bulls control them, but it may just be that we're in for a few weeks, you know, of further consolidation on the higher time frames, daily and weekly, which is not a bad thing. My key opportunity zone on Tesla, 230 all the way down to pretty much 210 is going to be my buy area, right? This whole area right here, juicy. You will see me do a lot of contracts if we pull back in price. And on the flip side, guys, obviously, we can also do something like this, push a bit higher and reset the daily uptrend, right? But one thing at a time, we have to be sure what are going to be the sizes of all these bounces on tech. So keep an eye out on the next few days. Crucial. If we put in some nice bounces, this is all of tech. This chart represents all of tech, guys, as you've seen. If we get decent bounces, likely scenario becomes set a daily higher low, recapture of the daily uptrend. If this is it for the bounces and on the next few days, we start testing these lows, daily downtrends are most likely coming. At that point, it's going to be further weekly consolidation, and I've given you guys the levels. So hopefully you all appreciate that. PayPal, let's do a few others quickly. PayPal also consolidating slightly, right? Same opportunity. The bulls have been playing decent defense, guys, but you can see we gave it all back towards the end of the day today. So potentially setting up for the daily downtrend here once again, and that would just mean weekly consolidation. Anything above 66 is just going to be looking for a weekly higher low. Tons of space, guys, tons of space, but this was a very nice move by PayPal. We look to set the daily higher low, but now we're kind of failing. If we set the daily downtrend like that, we're just looking into this further area down here into below 70 potentially. I will be maybe writing some more options if I can get them below 70. But that's pretty much it. I'm very happy with my shares position on PayPal. And that's pretty much how the cookie crumbles for PayPal. Palantir, same thing, guys. Look, okay. It depends on the size of the bounce. If we bounce like this, you'll hear me say we're looking for the daily higher low. If we bounce soft like this, and then we get a few days and we're testing, then I have to go with the probabilities of the daily downtrend. This would mean further weekly pullback on Palantir. Anything above 14, pretty much high 13s is going to be your weekly higher low. So tons of space for the bulls to work with. It's just that we may be due for some daily downtrends into further weekly consolidation. Palantir for me, ideal levels that I'm targeting, anything pretty much in the 13s, right? 13 to 12 is kind of like my ideal zone to be writing options into if we do ever pull back in that area. Now, portfolio hasn't really changed today. Slight update on my portfolio, ever so slightly. I can tell you guys it really wasn't changed so much. The options value on the value contracts don't really move that much intraday, especially if we're only up about 0.5%, not even 1% on a lot of these plays. So staying fairly similar, even though the S&P was up today. So we were also ever so slightly up, but nothing considerable. Still almost up about 60% on the year. So very, very good outperformance against the NASDAQ and the S&P as well, right? If you want to go see my positions here, you can see we rotated a bit out, closed the Robloxes. If you guys remember, so Roblox was closed, AMD was closed, and Signet Jewelers was also closed. If you want me to show you those, we'll come and get them right here, right? So we're going to look for the AMDs. We sold them last Friday, the 104s for 51 cents, and we pretty much captured the profit here today, bought them back for 13 cents. So very, very good, over 75% profit, right, since last Friday. So very, very happy with those. SIG, you can see we wrote them yesterday for 36 cents. We were actually able to close them today for 16 cents. So very, very good performance as well. Pretty much like 65, 70%, right? So I will take those off the table. Not going to wait an extra 4 days. I'd rather rotate them into something else. And the Robloxes, you can see here, the Robloxes, we wrote them for 17 cents, closed them at 7 cents today. So also another, 60+% trade in only 1 day. So it serves no purpose to hold their other 40% for an additional 4 trading days, right? You want to replace them for the same exposure. That's what I try to teach you guys, right? So what do we replace them with? Replace them with the target 131s for 42 cents each. You can see that we didn't pick the top. They actually ran a bit more. Target 131s. I will show you where they are. They're all the way down here. So target's been kind of range bound since all their controversy, right? So doing a good job of holding these lows. If I get assigned at target on 131, guys, won't really matter because we're pretty much back to 2020 levels, right? Decent area down here. Will not be mad if I do get assigned. I do think that a bounce is most likely in order. A lot of value names are still down, and I do think we have the possibility of running if ever I do get assigned. If we don't get assigned, we'll just close out the premium for that potentially later in the week. Anything, I'm looking for 70, 80% plus within the next 24, 48 hours to be able to close those. We also have the Teslas that we're still trapped in, right? You guys know I explained that yesterday, how we're trapped for about roughly $6 a share, right? So on 200 shares, it's about $1,200 that we're down. Not that big, but we really, because I remind you guys, right? If we get the daily downtrends on Tesla, something like this, right? That's why I want to be covered. So I'm not taking them off until this week is pretty much through, until I can see how high the bounce is, whether we set up for a daily uptrend reversal, or if we get the daily downtrend, then this play will be very good for me. I'll be able to close the covered calls at a profit and pretty much ride the shares down for free all the way to a lower level, and then take the bounce from there and end up altogether in a profit on the position. Now, we also still have the SC, the C limited puts, right? They're pretty much, I got them yesterday for 30. They're down to 23. They were all the way down to 11 cents today. Should have closed them, chose to kind of let them ride. Anyways, they're back up there. We have the Alcoa, another value name, right? So where did we write them? We wrote the 3450s. You can see right down there. We're right in this pocket right here, this little range here. So if I get assigned 3450, really won't mind taking these shares, guys. We're down in a nice little area here of support. You can see it's acted as support in the past, actually a number of times, right? So I'm kind of just playing the odds here in terms of the AA. It's really not that big of value. So I replaced the Robloxes. You remember the Robloxes? Rather than holding the Robloxes for another 7 cents, almost same strikes. So for the same exposure, Roblox, you remember I wrote them at 16 cents. So now I got 16 cents again here on another name for the same exposure that I'll ride down to 0 most likely. So we're just replacing the values. You can see the exposure, right? Two contracts, we're replacing the value. Since there wasn't enough premium on these anymore, close them and open these instead. So I hope that explains a few things. TPR, obviously, we're in on this position. We're assigned, right? Have the covered calls on them right now. 40 cents I got for them. They're actually above 42 now. So these have run a bit more, but all in all, happy, nothing to say. And yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. So you can see only value names that I'm playing this week. No Google, no nothing. Already closed the AMDs, right? So I'm waiting. Patiently waiting, letting the stocks come to me. And that's what's the most important part, guys. Sometimes you just have to be patient. Obviously, the Estee Lauders performing very well. We got the 170s, right? Estee Lauder today, we wrote them. We wrote these when the stock was about 175. yesterday. So now you can see second little day of upswing. We're already up on the premiums. Decent little move up. We're already up 30%. You know, these contracts are still 3 weeks out. So it's very good to be up 30% in one day of holding a 3-week contract. That's very good risk. That's very good risk to reward, very good ROI as well, right? And obviously you can see, guys, the leap calls here pretty much decently up here, guys. We're up about 123 bucks, right? 2% of the contract, not that much. But I'm not sure why the prices, this is actually, they're in the $49. That's why you're seeing the profit here. The last traded price is just not correct here. So decently up on those as well. So nothing to say. So that's pretty much it, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. Keep an eye out tomorrow. Big day. Meta. Don't forget, right? Meta after hours. We also have the FOMC decision going to be very big. If I'll leave you this one more time, screenshot this screen if you want. You can go on their Twitter and find it. Coca-Cola and Meta going to be the two that I'm looking out for the most. So if you enjoyed the video, guys, once again, I always love doing these for you. Consider liking, consider subscribing. I love you guys. I hope you had a good trading day today. Do not get too greedy on earnings is the moral of the story. And you see what I'm doing. I'm playing value and not so much tech this week because value has currently been in favor and tech has been slightly kind of falling off and setting up for some potential daily downtrend patterns. So we're going to watch those. And if they do start pulling back more, we let the stocks come to us and you will see that I will definitely be playing tech if the prices come lower a bit. So I love you guys. Take care. I'll see you guys tomorrow. And once again, like and subscribe. I appreciate it very much. Take care. Peace.